In a world where science and faith collide, two intellectual titans step into the ring to debate the ultimate question: does a creator of the universe exist? Christian apologist Dr. Frank Turek brings unshakable arguments and bold reasoning, while skeptic Dr. Michael Shermer counters with wit and thought-provoking challenges. Will truth prevail, or will skepticism steal the spotlight? Get ready for an electrifying clash of ideas that will leave you questioning everything. This is a debate you don't want to miss.
Let me ask you this. If God does not exist, only molecules exist, what is the nature of the moral standard called goodness, and why are we obligated to obey it? What is that little ruler if it's not God's nature?
Okay, back to where I started. Frank, can you think of any reason why sexually molesting a child is bad?
I can think of reasons, but they're all based on moral principles which require God.
No, they don't.
Sure they do.
No, really. Do you really need God to tell you and explain to you why it's wrong to molest a child?
No, not to tell me why it's wrong, but you don't need God to know right and wrong. You don't need God to be good. You just need God to justify what good is.
No. Right there. Stop right there and leave out the God part. I know why it's wrong. Full stop.
You know why it's wrong, but why is it wrong independent of you knowing it?
So Plato refuted this 2.5 millennia ago. It's called the Euthyphro problem, or the Euthyphro dilemma. That is, if God says, say, murder is wrong, although technically by definition that's what murder means, wrongful killing. But in any case, are there reasons why God is saying that? Yes, God has his reasons. Okay, give us the reasons.
Made in the image of God.
And skip the middleman. All we need are the reasons why.
But see, that implies a moral principle. When you, like before you said, the reason you shouldn't sexually molest a child is because they're sentient beings and you wouldn't want them doing it to you, or vice versa, or whatever. Those are all other moral principles that need a source. What is the source on atheism?
The source
what is the standard?
Leave atheism out of it. Atheism isn't anything. It's just lack of belief in God, full stop. We could talk about civil rights, civil liberties, the rule of law.
Where do rights come
conventions.
from?
I think rights come from, the basis of it is human nature and what all of us want. Now, I think we're born with an inherent, innate sense of right and wrong. We know from research, like in Paul Bloom's lab at Yale, for example, with tiny infants. These are like 6 months to a year old babies. And they are shown a little puppet show. So imagine there's this ramp, and this puppet's pushing this ball up the ramp, and one puppet comes up and bashes the ball back down and is fighting the puppet. And then,
Michael,
let me finish. This is a great experiment.
Okay.
I'm making an argument for
I'm not disagreeing that we all know right from wrong. That's not my point. My point is not epistemology. How do you know right from wrong? My point is, what is rightness on an atheistic, materialistic worldview?
On a humanist worldview, right and wrong is determined by a combination of our innate moral sense, our upbringing, what our parents teach us, our family, our social communities, and so on, which, by the way, have changed a lot. You guys would have been in favor of burning witches and enslaving blacks centuries ago. You don't believe that anymore. Maybe 50 years ago, most of you would have voted, probably about 90% would have voted that blacks and whites getting married should be illegal. It's not God's plan. God separated the races by continents. These were arguments made in the 20th century.
Okay,
Nobody here would argue that today.
Michael, your book...
Gay marriage. Most of you are probably against this. I contend probably half of you tonight are already in favor of it, or at least let it happen. In 10 years, we won't even be talking about gay marriage.
Michael, why are any of these
right
things...
right and wrong shifts over time, and it doesn't come from religion. It doesn't come from the Bible. There's no reinterpretation. Oh, when Paul said this, he really meant gays should get married. No, that's not how moral change happens. It's not happening through religion.
I'm not talking about moral change. I'm talking about the grounding of morality.
If
we're just molecules, well, then if we do it, then who's to say Hitler was worse than Mother Teresa?
Again,
who's to say that if there's no standard beyond either of them, how can you say Hitler was wrong?
Can you think of any reason why Hitler was worse than Mother Teresa?
If you say because he killed people, then you just brought another moral principle in. It's wrong to kill people. Why is it wrong to kill people?
How about the survival and flourishing of sentient beings is a good, and the more we promote that and do it, that's good. Harming and killing people is bad.
Michael, Hitler says no. Hitler wants to flourish his sentient beings, not you.
Yes,
Why is he wrong?
So he was wrong because it's violating the sense that every autonomous person has of a desire to live and fulfill their destiny as
Why is that a
sentient
moral
beings.
principle we ought to obey?
We're born with it.
We're born
We get
knowing
that.
it, but why should we obey it?
We get it from, like, for example, our constitutions that we write, and we say, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to enforce
So if
it.
we write a constitution that says gay marriage is bad, you're for that?
No.
Oh, okay, so there's a standard outside the Constitution you want to impose on it.
Based on our nature, yes. It comes inherent with the species. We're born with a sense of a desire for life, freedom, and autonomy, which is why women have been fighting against the church for 2,000 years to have reproductive rights, freedom from oppression, from males and so forth. And we have all been bending to this because women say, that's what we want.
Unless
It's something we want because we're born with it.
unless the woman is in the womb.
Okay, now let's talk
All
about
right.
that for a second.
Let me go to a new subject, Michael.
No, wait. No, you
It's
brought it
my
up.
time, Michael.
You brought it up. And here maybe
Would it
it's
be
appropriate.
immoral for me to stop you?
It might be a good time to use Bill Maher's line that Republicans are pro-choice all the way up to the time where their mistress gets pregnant. And also, conservatives seem to be pro-life all the way up until birth. And then after that, just war. It's perfectly okay to kill innocent civilians in Iraq. It's perfectly okay to put to death people on death row. You've already argued that it's justifiable to kill certain people, even innocent people, due to some other cause. All right, so we're already on the same page there.
No, Michael, what you just brought up, there's a difference between an innocent child in the womb and a guilty murderer on
What
death
about
row.
an innocent civilian in Iraq that we bomb using drones?
That's why we try and minimize
And
those,
we
because we
have
know that
collateral
person's
damage. Well,
valuable.
okay.
Let me go on to final question. Only got 3 minutes left.
Well, we can just dialogue, Frank. We don't have to
All right.
put a
Well,
stopwatch on
I
it.
want you to put me on the spot. What blind natural laws can create computer code billions of letters long?
Okay, first of all, you were wrong about that business about DNA. It's perfect. There's not a single
Well, no,
DNA
there
thing
could
out
be
of-
mutations in it.
This
but
is not just mutations. 8% of our DNA is viral DNA. This is called lateral gene transfer. It was discovered in the 60s and 70s. There's a new book out called The Tangled Tree. David Quammen, I just had him on my podcast last week. He talks about all the new research on this. Since the Human Genome Project, 8% of our genome is viral. How did it get there? It came there from viruses. 2.5% of our genome of everybody who's not in Africa, does not have an African origin, is Neanderthal. Give me the explanation, the theist explanation for why God put Neanderthal DNA, 2.5%, into our genome. What's the purpose of that?
I don't know what the purpose is because I'm not a biologist, but my question to you
Well, there's
is,
no purpose.
is the DNA a computer program or not?
Okay, these analogies we use, it's not a computer program. This is just a metaphor we use to try to understand.
No, it's not a metaphor. It's one-to-one correspondence. It's like computer code. You can ask the moderator right here. But you're
I'm supposed to stay
Frank,
neutral,
but-
even though I am an engineer, yes.
okay.
But really, Frank, I mean, this business of...
We can switch over now. It's
Yeah,
about
it's
50
your
minutes.
turn
So
now.
we don't have to
but-
switch. We can just
I know,
talk.
we can
You can
continue,
ask me
but,
questions
but
now.
put him on the spot there, Michael.
Well, the aliens of...
Aliens are here again.
Anybody know how to use an iPhone?
What I'm not following you, Frank, so for example, from your beginning points, how you're deriving that there must be a single, personal creator who cares about me from the fact that the gravitational laws are a certain way.
I haven't gotten there completely yet because
I mean,
this is
it
just
could be-
this is just theism at this point.
Could it be a committee of gods? There could be 2 or 3 or a dozen. Could be like a board of directors that,
No,
that
it
runs
can't.
the universe.
It can't for a couple of reasons. Although you look at the platypus, you might think so.
Well, but I mean,
No,
deism could be that could be it. God set up the whole
You're right.
thing
You're right. Yeah.
and runs the show.
It could be deism, but I think when you go further, you realize that God has intervened in the world since the beginning. But back to your point, one argument which I didn't bring up is the idea that that everything that exists materially is composed, and it needs to be composed by an external force. Now, the force that composes the universe and composes matter can't be composed itself, because then that being would need a composer as well.
Yeah,
so what you're getting back to is an immaterial, spaceless, timeless composer that is pure actuality, no potentiality. That being isn't composed at all. It's spaceless, timeless, and immaterial.
Okay, who created
and there can only be one of them.
Timeless being?
If you're timeless, do you have a beginning?
No, yeah, of course. Look,
if you're let me say that again. If you're timeless, do you have a beginning?
You can.
How? You're not in time.
So now you're depending on the laws of logic that are failing, because first of all, we don't know of anything that came from nothing. There's no example of this at all. For example, quantum physicists tell us that the things that are bouncing off all of us right now, photons of light, they come from the inside of atoms. They're not in the atoms. They're not sitting there waiting to burst out. They pop out of the atoms, out of nothing, out of the quantum foam. Okay, you quoted Stephen Hawking quite a bit. Hawking's point was that, not that the universe comes from nothing. There's not this like creation event from nothing. When physicists talk about nothing, they don't mean what theologians mean. They mean there's this quantum energy field out of which things pop from just the pure energy. We know of nothing. Okay, this is one of these linguistic epistemological walls I mentioned that we're going to hit. We can't conceive of nothing. It's not possible for any human brain to conceive of nothing.
Sure it is. That's what most men think about.
No thing. See, the word itself, no thing, implies there's a thing of which there's no. That would not even be nothing. It would be like my asking you, imagine yourself dead. You can't do it, because to imagine something, you have to be alive.
Michael, don't go Lawrence Krauss on me. I mean, come on. Even atheists have panned his book.
Okay, Frank, this is Lawrence Krauss.
If I say I had nothing for lunch, that means I had no thing for lunch. I didn't eat lunch. It doesn't mean I had something called nothing.
Okay. Again, we don't know anything about what the universe was like at the very beginning. As far as we know, it could be an infinite universe going all the way back, not a beginning infinitely long ago, that the Big Bang creation from the singularity point was itself just on the continuum of there's always being something, by which I mean the nothing of quantum energy.
All right,
Okay, so again, we're hitting a wall here. I'm not saying I know what was there before. Nobody knows, and we can never know, as long as we're in this universe, what was there before our universe. It's just as possible that there were multiple universes, and by this I don't mean multiple universes now. I mean a sequence of these, from which, for example, a collapsing black hole that collapses into a singularity point, which was Stephen Hawking's great breakthrough for his PhD thesis, was that maybe this is how the universe started, was something like a collapsing black hole singularity point. It's entirely possible, this is pure science fiction at the moment, that super advanced extraterrestrials could engineer a solar system and a star to collapse into a black hole and create a universe. You could have multiple bubble universes popping in and out.
Michael.
This is simply an engineering problem. What would you call a being that could create a universe out of a black hole?
Michael, you're supposed to be the scientist.
You would call that God.
Michael,
I'm claiming that any sufficiently advanced extraterrestrial would be indistinguishable from the God you believe in.
You are coming up with a lot of speculations with no evidence.
As are you.
No.
You have no evidence of this God. All you have are, I have a gap, I can't explain it.
It's not a gap.
I think God did it.
It's not a gap.
That's
We're
all
not reasoning from what we don't know, we're reasoning from what we do know. If space, matter, and time had a beginning, the cause must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial.
No, that does not follow.
What is it then?
No. Let me give you some of these like logical sequences. Here's a God, I just made these up. Here's the paradox of perfection. If God exists, then he's perfect. If God exists, he is the creator of the universe. Perfect beings must create perfect things. The universe is not perfect, there's no God. Okay, solid logic, utter bullshit as an argument.
It's fallacious.
But that's the kind of stuff that all of these arguments are.
No, it's fallacious, Michael.
If this, and then this, and then this, none of those follow from the points ahead of time.
Define what you mean by perfect.
Well, that's right. You define it, because I can't.
Well,
we don't have a perfect. It's not possible.
When you're talking about a world constrained by physical constraints, there's no such thing as perfect design. What engineers like Neil do is they find design that fits their purpose. Like this iPhone, unfortunately I have to recharge every 2 hours. Now they could have made the iPhone a lot bigger, but if they did, I'd be lugging it around like a suitcase.
You need to get the 5.
Well,
Stick with
whatever.
The 5.
The point here is that the engineers have to trade off between size and portability and battery life. So there is no perfect design unless you know what the intention of the designer is. So the analogy there is fallacious, or the statement you said. But let me just ask you this. This is an important point here. All right? Up here. You see right here is today.
Yeah.
There's yesterday. There's the day before yesterday. There's last week. Let's say we don't know how far back this line goes, the timeline. Question is, can this line be infinite into the past?
This would imply, if that's true, that not that it had no beginning, that there was no beginning infinitely long ago. The Big Bang would just be the latest beginning of this universe. There could be multiple bangs, there could be multiple universes going all the way back. This would be like arguing there had to be a finite beginning or else we wouldn't be here tonight. Okay. No matter what would happen, you'd end up with this finite beginning. But let me ask you this. Okay, I forgot what I was going to ask you. Oh, on the design question, since you have the timeline up there. So we now know the universe is 13.8 billion years old, and humans are roughly about 100,000 years old. Christianity began about 2,000 years ago. What was God doing that 99.99% of all that time? If this is all beautifully designed and elegantly and teleological and purposeful, and it's all here for us so that we would be here, boom, here we are. Why the 13.78889 billion years of nothing? And then I think I'll send my son to this desert place in this Bronze Age culture where no one can write, and I'll give them the message. What was the purpose of all that time?
Augustine actually answered that question. He said he was creating hell for people who ask questions like that, okay?
I'm telling you, my best friends are going to be there. Hitchens, Sagan.
No, obviously.
It's going to be great. You guys should come. It's going to be party time.
Now, Michael,
But that's a serious question, though, really, because if you're building us into it as something purposeful, I realize you didn't go there with your arguments.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different argument.
That's okay.
How do you get to Christianity that Jesus died for us with 13.788 billion years of nothing, and then I think I'll come in now.
Well, you could read a book by Hugh Ross which deals with that question directly. I have not read it myself. I just had him on the radio program. But I will say this, that God's sacrifice is retroactive. In fact, Hitchens asked this of me in the first debate we had. He said, what was God doing for all that time? And Hitchens didn't seem to realize that Christ's sacrifice was retroactive to everything that happened before him. So people that lived before him were still saved by his sacrifice. So when God came, working through free creatures, a lot of people say he came 2,000 years ago because you had a relative time of peace with a Roman Empire that built a road system and a language, Koine Greek, that was all around the known world at the time. It was the perfect time for God to come and spread this message through people around the ancient world.
Did he die for the Neanderthals too?
Yes, if in fact there were Neanderthals who had the capacity to make moral decisions.
How about Homo erectus, slightly smaller brain?
If in fact that was a human being, yeah.
They're not humans. They're a different species of hominid. How about Australopithecines, little Lucy with the little, single sort of chimp-sized brain? So in other words, there's a scale all the way down. How about my dog? Does my dog get saved? You see where I'm going with
this? Yes, dogs go to heaven, but cats don't. Clearly, they're demonic. Okay?
Here, we have agreement on this. I will concede the point.
Let the record show there is agreement.
No. I love cats. They taste like chicken. All right, I'm sorry. Just kidding.